Energy Action Plan, which if you don't know what that is, you're going to get to learn a little bit about it today. With me, I have Andrew, and so I'm going to pass it over to Andrew to give a little brief introduction before we kind of dive into things.
Cool, thanks, Abby. Hey, everyone. My name is Andrew Andrasky. I'm also a Partners in Energy community facilitator and have been working closely with Adams County facilities to help identify projects where they can help reduce energy use in their facilities. And yeah, I'm excited to have a chance to share some of the information that we've got today.
Great. Thanks, Andrew.
If you don't mind, let me pitch the Green Team.
Yes, please.
These are very formal meetings. This is part of the Green Team. Thank you guys, everyone. Come on in. All right, representation. So we're just going through introductions. So the Green Team is a group of voluntary employees that are interested and passionate about protecting the environment at work or at home, doesn't matter. If anyone would like to join, you can send us an email. We'll put you in the list. And we meet every 2 months. It's not that difficult. We share some ideas. We're trying to find direction. But I think the point here is to share opportunities, events, trainings, or upgrades or suggestions that we can help. I think we can be a stronger group. It has been in the past. The goal is to get a little bit bigger and have a bigger voice, hopefully. But I think you have, Abby, you want to go around and have some introductions? I think there's a lot of new people.
Yeah, sure. That would be great. How about we do the online folks first, and then I'll just turn it over to you to facilitate the in-person intros. I'll also just call out, so Andrew and I are here with Partners in Energy from Xcel, and then Joe is also in the room there today from Xcel Energy too, and he can introduce himself in a second. But for online, let's start, Connor, if you don't mind introducing yourself and just maybe your name and your department and one thing you're interested in learning about today. Now, and I put Connor on the spot, and now he looks like he's frozen on my end, so.
You had to unmute yourself. No, that's the trick here. Frozen. Yeah.
It looks like he's frozen. All right, I'm going to pass it to Christy then. So again, name, department, and what you're interested in learning about. And sorry, you're going first, so you have to think about that last one.
That's okay. No problem. Hi, everyone. Christy Reeves. I'm with the health department. I'm in a program called Nurse Family Partnership. I'm an associate manager over here. And I don't know, really just curious to see what efforts are being made through this partnership. Just really always interested in any ways that we can reduce our carbon footprint.
Awesome. Thank you. And then I'll do Kyle.
Hi there, Kyle Berg. I'm with Facilities and Fleet Management. I'm one of the project managers, and I'm just interested in hearing about the Energy Action Plan today.
Okay, I'm going to turn it over to the room, and why don't we just start on the left side of the U and then work our way around. And I guess it's left, whichever way you want to interpret left.
That's fine. Denise, you're there.
Yeah.
My left side. Okay. Denise Beltran with Public Works, and I'm part of the sustainability. So.
Claire Brewer, Business Solutions Analyst in the IT department. I'm a part of Green Team for 10 years. And I'm just always excited to see what efforts we can help save the world.
Joseph Chisholm with Environmental Health. Curious on what access the county has to solar, community solar gardens.
I'm Juliana with Public Works, Stormwater. I'm curious about the different facilities. Public Works has 3 facilities. I'm curious how that impacts. That is including facilities.
Michaela Ladber, Stormwater Inspector. I've been with the Green Team for 2 years, and I'm just excited to learn how we can reduce our carbon footprints.
Facility and Fleet Management. Just here to see what the action plan is outlining.
I'm Hayden Markowski, project coordinator with facilities, and here to see what we're doing.
I'm Renette Carlson, Senior Project Manager with Facilities, and I am here to figure out how we can have a better partnership with my new contact at Excel Energy.
Well, and that's a
You
good
found
thing.
him.
My name's Joe Lamone. I work for Excel. I'm an account manager and the account manager for Adams County. I'm relatively new, just over the past year, to managing it. So that's my goal as well, is just to figure out ways of how we can partner. Just really learn more about you and the facilities and just glad for the engagement and to learn a little bit. So thank you.
My name is Colin Sanders. I'm one of the operations managers for facilities. All the sustainable solutions we can come up with.
My name is David Richards. I'm also with Facilities and Fleet Management, and I'm interested in learning about potential facility projects.
Jay Clark, I'm the other facility operations manager. I'm here to check out the greens.
Awesome. Okay, I think that was everyone. Connor's having microphone issues, but he's joining today from the attorney's office. So that is great. All right. So with that, I'm going to have Andrew pull up our slide deck and we can kind of dive into the details.
Healthy food. There's some snacks here. I can pass them if you're really hungry.
Yeah, and this is, supposed to be pretty informal and fun. So feel free to, get up, ask questions throughout. And so if we go to the next slide, just an overview of what we're going to do today. We just kind of did the welcome and introductions, but we are going to be talking about 2 key Adams County plans that focus on energy performance throughout the county. And then we're going to do a deep dive into some facility energy performance and have some time at the end, hopefully for Q&A, if not have Q&A sprinkled between all of these different sections. And so hopefully by the end of the day today, you'll leave with a little bit more knowledge about Adams County, its plans and its energy action plan, as well as how its current facilities are kind of performing. And if we go to the next slide, which I think we're going to be able to skip, you can go to the next slide. The 2 kind of plans that we're going to talk about today to tee things up are the Sustainable Adams County 2030 Plan and the Adams County Facilities Energy Action Plan. And so if we go to the next slide, thinking about that Adams County 2030 Sustainability Plan first, we were just curious, before we kind of give you the context, if people are familiar with this plan. And so just on a scale of 1 to 5, if you're online, enter just in the chat, 1 being I haven't heard of the plan at all, and then 5 would be like you wrote the plan. 3 is you're probably
Your
in the
fingers.
middle.
I'll count them.
Yeah. And then if you're in the room, we're gonna have you just hold up fingers, and Juliana is gonna help facilitate kind of a call out of what we're seeing. So again, 1 to 5, either you can enter it in the chat. Christy says
3
she's
5s.
3 5s.
Some 4s. 4. I'm sorry, 4 5s. A lot of 3s. 1, 2, 3, 4 3s. You said 3. 5 3s. 1 4 and 1 4 over there. What's his name? Your
Sorry.
What's your level? I didn't see your fingers. Your level of knowledge with the sustainability plan. Are you familiar with it? Someone familiar?
Yeah.
Okay. The good news is there's no 1s or 2s. Okay, there were
Cool.
the 3s, 4s, and 5s.
Great. We have 1, 2 online and a couple of 3s. So that's awesome. So some of these slides you might be familiar to some of you all. So if you go to the next slide, Andrew, what this 2030 Sustainable Adams County Plan is it was updated in 2021, and it includes 8 different focus areas. The goal of the plan was really to be metric driven and implementable. So there's a lot of great data associated with this plan. But why it is significant for today's conversation is that within the energy section of the plan, there are 2 specific Adams County facility energy goals and 1 community-wide energy goal. There's a separate effort that's kind of outside of the scope of today's conversation that is tackling that community energy goal. But those two facility energy goals were wrapped up into this partnership with Xcel Energy through what is known as Partners in Energy. And so that, if we go to the next slide, we can see what those two energy goals are. And so really what's driving a lot of today's conversation is that there's this goal for Adams County to incorporate energy efficiency and new energy technologies and building practices into its facilities. To do that, to measure progress towards that goal, it has an energy use intensity or EUI metric, and that is to reduce that EUI by 15% from the 2019 baseline. Some of you may be really familiar with the metric of EUI, and some of you might never have heard of it before the end. But by the end of the day today, hopefully you all know what it is and also how Adams County is doing towards that goal. Kind of another important part of this plan was to train employees on energy efficiency practices and to inform employees about what's happening related to this plan and the energy work. So there's a big gold star there because inherently by attending this session today, you are helping Adams County achieve that goal in this plan. And we'll talk about some of these other strategies and goals in the next couple of slides. So on the next slide, there's this question, I've mentioned it a few times, of where Partners in Energy fits in. And so Partners in Energy is a 2-year collaboration that communities can take with Xcel Energy to develop and implement specific energy goals and strategies. And so through Partners in Energy, different stakeholders are engaged to develop work plans that leverage data to inform opportunities. Adams County went through this process last year. The Energy Action Plan was officially formalized and adopted in July of 2023. And so right now we're in a phase called implementation, where we're taking what's in that plan and going forth and actually doing. How this connects back to the sustainability plan is that the Energy Action Plan goals mirror what's in that sustainability plan. It just has, the Energy Action Plan just has some more specific facility information that was included in that kind of larger holistic plan. So on the next slide, you'll see that the goal in just a second. However, before we do that, we're going to do another ranking. So you've done one of these now, so hopefully you're kind of in the groove for how this is going to go. But again, if you're online, enter in the chat. If you're in person, put up your hands and we'll have Juliana help us understand what's happening. 1 is you haven't heard of the plan. 5 is you helped wrote it. So again, 1 through 5, we'll see where we are for this kind of related Adams County Facility Energy Action Plan.
Thank you. Okay. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Got a summary.
So online we have 1, 1, and 2 3s. And Juliana, do you mind just sharing what's happening in the room? I think I missed it.
Don't know anything. Just
Okay.
1. You know who you are. Then we have 2 that said 3 and 2 that said 4. Probably facilities. Okay.
Cool. So overall, less familiarity with this facility energy action plan than the sustainability plan. That makes sense. This plan is newer, it was just adopted last year and it was a more targeted effort, but you're going to get to learn about it today. So that's exciting. So on the next slide, are those goals I was alluding to. And so really the whole purpose of this facility energy action plan was to build on the goals outlined in the 2030 plan. And so the goal language is the same. And it's really to help Adams County incorporate energy efficiency and new energy technologies into its buildings and new facilities. And there's a bunch of different strategies to do that. But again, kind of mirrors that sustainability plan. And there's this goal to develop a county employee sustainability communication program. And this is kind of one step in that we're doing today. So with that kind of background, I'm going to turn it over to Andrew to talk a little bit more specifically about how Adams County's facilities are performing. I know in the intros, there were some people that had some interest in this, so this will kind of help tee that up.
Awesome, thanks, Abby. Yeah, and again, I encourage any participation and questions as we go along, so don't hesitate to interrupt me in anything that I'm saying. But to start things off and focus on your energy building performance, we'll first look at some of the basics about how energy is used in buildings. Typically, buildings have sourced their energy from two different energy types, the main ones being electricity and natural gas. And there can be some overlap in these sources of sometimes space heating and cooling is all electric. Sometimes space heating can be from natural gas. But in general, electricity provides your cooling, your lighting, maybe some of your water heating. But the obvious things, any of your equipment that you plug into an outlet, computer, appliance, kitchen equipment, that sort of stuff is all sourcing energy from electricity. And then natural gas typically provides your heating, can often provide water heating, and is a common source for backup power generation. So if the electric grid goes down, there's usually a natural gas power generator to provide a backup source. And what are some of the benefits of electricity versus natural gas? So there's a hot buzzword out there these days called electrification. And anytime you hear electrification, this basically means that you're transitioning from a natural gas energy source to an electric energy source. And this is a very pertinent topic these days because it can help in many areas to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. It may reduce your energy costs. It can improve energy efficiency. A lot of the times, if you're switching from, say, a natural gas water heater to an air source heat pump water heater, you can actually have efficiencies that are about 3 times higher than what the natural gas equivalent would be. And also one of the benefits is you can integrate more renewable energy options into your energy sources. So with electricity, you can include solar and wind to help reduce the impact of the energy that you're sourcing and have it come from something that's a renewable place. And I think something that's really important that maybe we don't all realize is that buildings are responsible for about 40% of all energy use in the United States. And the energy used by buildings is also responsible for 35% of the nation's carbon emissions. So it's a very significant source of impact and very significant energy user. So doing what we can to make our buildings more efficient has a lot of benefits for both energy savings, cost reductions, and then also environmental impact reductions. So to kind of gauge, it might be hard to guess, do Adams County facilities use more natural gas energy or do they use more electricity energy? So in the room, I think if you think that there's more electricity used by Adams County facilities than natural gas, go ahead and raise your hand. And then in the chat, if you just want to enter your vote for one or the other, and we can compare. So Juliana in the room, how many votes?
Yeah, I'll try. Only electricity. 1, 2, 3. 8, 9, 10. Out of 12. 10 think that electricity is consumed more.
Great. Abby, I'm not able to see the chat online for some reason, but.
Yeah, we have 3 electricity votes online.
All
which
right.
means I think there's 4 people who are on the natural gas side, if I am counting correctly.
Okay, great. So what's it going to be? The answer is it depends on the year. So everyone's right and everyone's wrong. If you look at 2019 and 2022, you can see that they're the same proportion of how much electricity or gas was used in each of those years. And then in 2023, there was a shift where more electricity was used than natural gas. And this is common to happen. So in connection with talking to facilities, there hasn't been a huge push towards electrification, which would explain, is a potential explanation for why in 2023 there's 55% electricity use, whereas in the previous year it was less. This is just kind of a natural fluctuation depending on how things are used, depending on weather, and where your facilities are sourcing their energy. So other things that can impact energy use in facilities. A common one is the type of facility. So we can't just say an office space is more efficient than a data center because it uses less energy. They just have different types, so that's kind of an apples to oranges comparison, and so different use patterns will influence the impact of energy use. Obviously, the weather outside, if we have hot weather, cold weather, that's going to impact how much heating and cooling are required. The equipment that's in a building, typically older equipment is less efficient, but also if you buy new equipment, you have lots of options for the efficiency of that as well. So older or newer doesn't necessarily mean more efficient, but oftentimes it does. The size of the building, if you have a bigger building, obviously you're probably going to need quite a bit more energy to perform what needs to be performed using the building. And occupancy, if you have more people in the building, generally that drives up energy use. And a really big one that I think is especially pertinent for today's discussion is occupant energy use behavior. So I'll mention a statistic a little bit later in this slide deck, but how occupants use energy and how you interface with your building can actually have a pretty significant impact on overall energy use in your building. So in the chat, we've got 5 different scenarios. I think if in the chat you want to just mention increase or decrease or no change for these different scenarios, and then if you're in the room, if you think that any given scenario will increase energy use, give a thumbs up. If you think it will decrease, give a thumbs down or have no change. We can do a little sideways thermometer to let us know where that is. So first scenario, if your building is used to temperatures that are above 0, if all of a sudden we have cold weather, do we think that this is going to increase, decrease, or have no effect on energy use? Seeing lots of thumbs up.
Increase. We have, yeah, all of 12. It will increase.
Yep. Yep. Great. You all are naturals.
Online is all increased too.
All
So,
increase. Good. Good.
yeah.
All in favor. And then higher occupancy, we can maybe skip the votes on this one because I already gave it away. Looks like thumbs up for this as well.
Everyone will increase, but I don't know Denise. Okay. Thank you.
For this one's could be a little bit trickier. A cool rainy summer, how do we think that might impact overall energy use?
You made it complicated. I have a potpourri of all of it. Some will say that it will increase, some will stay, and some will decrease.
So
Online
Abby?
voting decrease. I got
Decrease.
decreased votes for online.
Yeah, it's a little bit tricky with the rainy summer and how much if you have evaporative cooling, but we'll set that that detail aside and say in general, if you have a cool rainy summer, you're probably going to need to cool your building less. The comfort's going to already be there. So in general, I would expect cooler weather in the summertime to mean that you're using your air conditionings less. And so you would decrease your electricity use in this scenario. Scenario number 4, if you're switching your heating technology from natural gas heating to an electric heat pump heating source, do you think thumbs up for increase, thumbs down for decrease, or sideways for no change?
Almost half is gonna decrease. Some will stay and some will increase.
Awesome.
Decrease.
Abby, how are we looking online?
Online's going decrease.
Decrease. Great. Yeah, so this will actually decrease your overall energy use. In some scenarios, it can increase, decrease, or barely change your energy costs, but in all cases, switching away from natural gas to an electric heat source will decrease your energy use. In general, electric heating sources, if it's an air source heat pump or some sort of heat pump technology, it's about 3 times as efficient as natural gas heating. So it's an incredible technology that really is at the forefront of a lot of electrification pushes because it is so efficient relative to natural gas heating. Scenario number 5, energy conscious occupant behavior. So again, I mentioned before that how we interface with the buildings that we're in can have a significant or a meaningful impact on energy use. Let's cast our votes.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 will decrease. Some stay and some mostly stay. I don't think.
Great.
Mostly decrease, a few change.
Okay.
Online is decrease.
Faith and
Great.
humanity.
Yeah, luckily, it is the case that energy conscious occupant behavior within a building can have an effect. And a lot of studies do show that 5 to 30% of a building's energy use can be influenced by how the occupants use the building. It'll depend on the building type, but it's something where our choices that we make in our buildings do make a difference and have the capacity to reduce facility energy use by a smaller portion, around 5%, up to a very significant portion, being some studies showing 30% savings by just changing your behavior patterns within your building. Some energy performance metrics that are used. When we talk about building energy performance, we're talking about how efficiently a building uses energy to fulfill its operational requirements and maintain occupant comfort. And then, as Abby spoke to earlier, energy use intensity is a common metric that is used to weigh in how efficient one building of a certain type may be compared to another building. And this metric is defined as the total amount of energy that a building uses per year. So all of the electricity, all of the natural gas use, sum that up and then divide it by a building's square footage, and you can get an idea for how efficient the building is on a per square foot basis. And when you use this EOI metric, you can't really use it to compare different building types to one another and say like, oh, in this office building, the EOI is this, and in the warehouse, the EOI is much less, so the warehouse is more efficient. It doesn't work quite that way. That's, again, that apples to orange comparison. But for buildings of the same office type, or of the same type, whether it's, if you compare office to office, prison to prison, a higher EOI means that it's less efficient because you're using more energy per square foot. If you have a lower EOI, it's more efficient because you're using less energy to fulfill the operational requirements per amount of area in the building. So a little more participation from you all. We're going to do a comparison of just kind of a gut check of 3 different building types. So if I'm not sure what the easiest way is to do this in the room.
1, 2, 3. Let's call it 1, 2, 3.
Great idea. Yeah, so cast your vote for let's see, for the highest EOI. Let's go with that. Which of these 3 buildings do you think would typically has the highest EOI? We'll do number 1 for office, number 2 for prison, and number 3 for the police station.
Majority says prison B.
That is the online crowd is also prison.
Great. Ooh, how about the lowest?
An office. The office building.
Ah, great job. Y'all are in tune. Yeah, so typically just the way the type of energy, the use patterns that happen in a prison typically elicit more higher energy use than what you would have in an office. And then a police station being, somewhere in the middle.
Prison is like a 24-hour hotel. You have to run it.
Yeah. Yeah. Always occupied, always a lot going on. Whereas, with an office building, hopefully, I know sometimes it happens, but hopefully not all of you are there for 24 hours a day. But prisons, occupied all the time, which drives up the energy use. So we've got a long list. Have you?
I was just going to say we weren't intentionally trying to compare an office building to a prison, like in our dialogue with you all, but they're just like distinct examples for the spectrum.
Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, go ahead.
So also in the chat, or online, I'm not sure how to do this with our mixed attendance, but of this list, what do you got, Abby?
Yeah, so I think, given that kind of background about what UI means and how it changes from building to building, and given the fact that Adams County has this overall goal to reduce its facilities at UI by 15% by 2030, to kind of start and understand how to do that, we need to understand where we're at today. And so this is just going to be a random gut check. We purposely haven't given you a lot of information. Our facility folks might have a leg up in trying to make this guess, but this is a list of Adams County's 30 buildings. And if you're thinking kind of highest EUI, we can have this be discussion based, and in the chat, feel free to put a guess in if you're feeling brave of which Adams County facilities would have the highest EUI or have the highest energy use per square foot. And we'll just kind of pause for a second. You can read through the list and then maybe just like shout out popcorn style some initial guesses. And there's no right or wrong answer here.
The jail's not on there.
Animal shelter.
The other hotel.
And also the coroner's office.
The coroner's office.
The refrigerators and the air conditioning and everything that they need.
Fleet building.
There's 2, the animal shelter and the coroner's office.
Those are good guesses. So I heard for the coroner's office, because of the refrigeration, why are folks thinking about the animal shelter as a high EUI user?
Temperature control. There's a lot of air changes. They reading there.
They haven't figured that problem out yet.
Plus it's open to the air. I mean, it's not airtight.
And there's, I can't say residents, but I guess there's residents 24 hours a day. And
That's right. It's a mini hotel.
It's a mini hotel for animals. All right, awesome. Online, we have the animal shelter, and the Western Service Center was also thrown out online too. Okay, so if we go to the next slide, same activity, but lowest energy use per square foot.
I would say it's one of the parks because they're not used year round.
Or Whittier.
Leader police station.
Yeah, it's in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
The middle of nowhere, and
Probably they don't have electricity.
they have Wi-Fi, so.
Well, I would think that the cells barn really only used during the power and the.
Oh, that's true. They don't
The
have any
4-H.
electricity or anything in that barn, is
There's
there?
minimal. There's lights.
I don't know what Red Cross is. No, it's in design though.
Oh.
Mhm. What's Red Cross?
It's like,
Is it there? I heard too. I don't know, the barn, sales barn from parts. You know what that is? And some people hear the Little Blaze Station. That's in the middle of nowhere.
I say Whittier.
It's a public works facility for
Just like
stationing
that,
stuff.
so that they can.
plowing machine.
What?
It's been actually occupied.
And so the thinking with Whittier is that it's just like very remote, so it doesn't get a lot of visitors.
And it's small.
Cool. Yeah.
But it's per square foot.
Yes, exactly. It is per square foot. You're catching on all of the nuances that go into these things. It's awesome. You guys have like recorded it. Okay, I'm gonna turn it back over to Andrew to drum roll for the results.
The answers.
The answers.
Yeah, get ready. Yeah, can we get a drum roll in the room? All right, so great discussion overall. You all did very well to pick out the Riverdale Animal Shelter. I think those key areas that were mentioned, having the circulation, having residents that are there 24/7, temperature control, that tends to have a much higher impact on energy use. So yeah, one of the highest EUIs is the Riverdale Animal Shelter. And then if we slide all the way down to the bottom, there were mentions of the Leader Blade Station that's very low. The motor vehicle warehouse is quite low, and that you can see there's a large spectrum in between. So again, we can't really, it's not a fair comparison to say like, oh, animal shelter is less efficient than the Leader Blade Station because it has such a high EUI. They're very different building types. So we'd have to group things on a building by building basis to really give a more fair comparison of what building may be performing better or worse than the other ones. And this next slide, we've grouped the same building set together into their different bins of types, and we see non-refrigerated warehouse, offices, repair services, and then a few different standalone building types that don't have other building types to compare to out of this suite. But if we look at the offices, which is the biggest bucket of different building types, we can see the Fleet building has the highest EUI of all the office buildings, and then the Parks All Lesser building has the lowest, and then a pretty even distribution in between all of those.
And so
That building's not office though.
It's a little bit, yeah.
Shouldn't be an office.
That's
the
okay.
Fleet.
It's more of a warehouse type.
Okay,
It's a maintenance.
so you could bump that one over into that other bucket.
This is bad.
And when we were doing the intros, I think people were mentioning how they were curious about, how facilities were performing. For reference, the Energy Star, which is kind of a national benchmarking program, has an average EUI across the nation of 53 kBTUs per square foot, if that kind of helps contextualize the office in particular. And so before we move on to the next slide, maybe think about what buildings you work in and like where those buildings fall on this scale. And then also we'll pause and just, are there any like surprises to you all on either kind of where these numbers are landing or buildings that are higher or lower? Any thoughts, or does it kind of check out with what you were expecting or what you would expect given what is happening in these different buildings?
I'm surprised that Hanan is better than I thought it would be.
I'm also surprised at the Justice Center. I mean, the Justice Center is occupied from 7 o'clock in the morning until 7 o'clock at night.
Did it fall?
It's low,
That's super.
very low. I mean, those courtrooms.
Facilities.
And the Strasbourg building for Public Works also is joined with the police, with the sheriff office, so it's a combination.
Seems pretty high.
Just
And that combination of like services that are in that building might be part of the reason it's high. You know, there's lots of nuances to this. Like there's lots of office buildings that do other things besides just being office. So this is where kind of the art to the number interpretation comes into play. But okay.
It's not on there.
Oh yeah. Any other kind of thoughts any other closing thoughts before we move on?
I guess from the IT perspective, I would just add that, we have the data center at the government center, which is probably why our number is higher than like human services center, for instance, where there's no data center. But, as we're progressing in time and everybody's moving to the cloud, that number is only going to go down. We're getting rid of servers, decommissioning them all the time. Which just puts the burden on the other companies that we work on. It doesn't really,
doesn't disappear.
yeah, it doesn't disappear. It's just going somewhere else.
Are any of these buildings Energy Star rated?
How the district attorney's building was.
Human services was.
I don't think
It's not LEED.
No, I think it was LEED, wasn't it?
I don't know. I thought this one was close or was Energy Star, but not LEED. Or there's different levels of LEED too, right? There's like silver and gold.
And a lot of it depends on when it was built.
That too.
That's the answer.
Awesome. That's really great conversation and context to have for all of this. Cool. And it sounds like the human services was designed to LEED gold standard, but was never officially certified. That is from Kyle on our online chat. Great. Okay, so we keep on referencing this goal, this countywide facility goal. And so on the next slide, we can see how Adams County is doing towards that goal. So there's this goal for Adams County to have a 15% EUI reduction by 2030. That's combined reductions, and it's a combined EUI. So when Andrew was talking about the electricity and the natural gas, it is taking both of those things into consideration. On the graph on the left-hand side of your screen, you can see what that goal line is. If, Adams County is going to meet that goal by 2030, kind of assuming as the standard reduction every year, where Adams County needs to be. And then the blue bars are where Adams County has been since that baseline year of 2019. And on the whole, Adams County is like almost on track to meet its goal. It's just, it started in 2019, we were there. 2022 was a little bit higher. And then, 2023, that gap has decreased a little bit. And so kind of given all the knowledge and expertise in the room, I'm curious if anyone has any initial reactions for why 2022 might be a little bit higher than 2023. And I have another follow-up question, but I won't throw them all at you at once. So let's start with that one.
I have a thought.
Yeah, let's hear
We
it.
added the Fleet building in 22.
Okay, yeah.
Old Fleet building, is that what?
The new Fleet building. I don't know if it matters the more buildings you add.
That does make a difference. So that's a good theory. Any other kind of theories for 2022?
No, if County did it, but a lot of municipalities, they increased air exchanges during COVID, also increased filtration, lower energy consumption.
Yep.
Yeah, that's an interesting point considering that the baseline was set in 2019, which of course was pre-COVID. And so that is, we're going to be talking about COVID for the rest of our lives. But I think that's another good theory. Awesome. Okay.
Typo.
Andrew did these numbers, so I don't, and we've checked them, so I don't think it's a typo. But well, it's important to continue to tracking this over time, and that's part of the support that Partners in Energy is providing, is to help Adams County see how they're doing to this goal over time. And so to that end, I think a really important question is, what is Adams County doing to meet this goal? And so on the next slide, we have a bulleted list of some of the things that we know about through our work with Adams County and Partners in Energy, but we're also going to open up for discussion for other ideas. And so Adams County is working under an energy performance contract to try and increase efficiencies throughout the building. Events like this, as Andrew kind of pointed out, employee behavior can have a really big impact. Even if it's just 5%, that's still 5%. So educating employees about this and the fact that they can do little things and that make a difference is important. We're sharing some of that information via the sustainability page newsletter. And then there's a number of projects that are happening related to lighting and HVAC controls, to be specific, that are also improving efficiencies. And so that is just, we are just a small team that works with another small team within Adams County. And so we're curious if you all have any other kind of ideas or other projects that you know of that are happening in Adams County that, will help Adams County reach this goal. The IT example of like takedown servers is a great thing that can be added to this list. But other activities or ideas, or even things that you would like to see Adams County do to meet its goals? Big question.
The detention facility in our baseline targets.
Is the detention facility included on the baseline?
That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. I'd have to go back. Andrew, do you know the answer to that?
I don't know if the detention center is or not. I do have that information in there, but which one came in there? I know it's, since it's no longer in use, it's not in the 2023, but for the baseline, I'm not sure. But sure. I could find that out and get back to you if it's in the baseline.
For the most part, when we're looking at doing like master plans and things like that, we are keeping the detention facility separate because it's kind of its own thing and it's a whole big separate project. So it's likely not being looked at in this or energy performance contracting or the facility master plan.
Awesome. That's helpful context. I believe that was Hayden.
I'm just curious about Public Works. They have heavy equipment that has to be plugged in for whatever reason. I don't know. So I don't know what the changes on the equipment or the vehicles will be in the future. Whether more plugins will impact or be not accounted. I don't know if they will have their own station or will be tapping on to the building energy use. So I'm curious. I don't know.
Juliana, you're talking about like workstations? Did I catch that?
Kind of alongside of that, I know it won't affect energy usage, but what percentage of energy is coming from renewables? And is it possible to tie something like that to, again, a solar garden or something specific? How can you parse that out?
That renewable energy comment is a great leading comment, because the other big goal that Adams County has included in its plans is a renewable energy goal. And today we were just focusing on the EUI piece, but we have a renewable energy topic planned. So that's kind of a to come topic where we can kind of talk more in depth about what Adams County is doing on the renewable energy side. So come back for more is my plug right now. And you can find the answer out to that question. And there's a couple of good questions coming through the chat that I don't know the answer to. I'm not sure if maybe Hayden or someone else does, but does anyone in this room know if Adams County can upgrade lighting in buildings that they don't own? The Westminster Clinic was given as an example.
I would assume with landlord approval.
Yeah, I would say so, that, yeah, you could absolutely, I think it would have to probably be in partnership, like you were saying, with the building owner. Mm-hmm. And then just deciding who's going to pay for it and then who gets the rebate for it.
I know at this time it's not being looked at.
You said it's not.
It's not being looked at as far as I know.
We have so many other buildings to take care of first.
Yeah, we have our own facilities that are, we're kind of trying to catch up on, which is where a lot of these LED upgrades are. With the renewables, as part of the energy performance contracting program, that's something that we're going to be looking at. And then also, we've been discussing the possibility of doing solar EV chargers and doing some solar canopy type structures and stuff like that to be able to give us some power at places like such as parks that are harder to get power from the grid on. So it's being looked at.
I have a question. So also on the district attorney's building, we are actually adding additional square footage within the building envelope. Will that change the calculations for that building?
Yes, like the total square footage will change. So that would change the calculation for the building.
Yeah, and one of the things that Partners in Energy is also working with Adams County Facilities on is creating a tracker for this sort of information so that the EUI and then whatever renewable energy generation is implemented, so that all of that is being tracked. And on an annual basis, the tracker that we have, there's an input for how much energy is used, how much electricity, how much natural gas is used per building, and then what its square footage is, and that can be updated on an annual basis. And that is important to do to ensure that you have an accurate representation, because you don't want to, if you're to add more energy because you add more space, but you're not including that in the calculation, then it'll appear that you have a higher EUI than you actually do. So yeah, it's important to match both of those and update both of those metrics on an annual basis.
Thanks, Andrew. We're coming up to the end. And so these were like really awesome kind of larger projects, and we're going to close out. Andrew's going to walk us through some of those kind of behavior change things that anyone can make to help make a difference to kind of wrap us up today.
Yeah, so what can you all do to influence the energy impact at your buildings? And I think something, if you're working in an office or you've got a desk, a workstation, things that you charge, it can be really helpful to plug your monitor, your computer, your chargers, etc., into a power strip. So that once you leave your desk, whether it's for the day or the weekend, that whenever you're not around your desk, you can easily just flip one switch. It turns off all of your monitors, all of your chargers, and then you're not consuming any electricity that doesn't need to be consumed when you're not around at the end of the day or when you're not around on the weekend. And then also, if you are around your desk and you have chargers plugged in, but you're not actually charging anything, those types of devices can continue to pull electricity even if they're not in use. So this image here of the vampire, those types of energy uses, the ones where when they're just in an idle mode, they're unused, but it continues to suck energy, is called a vampire load. And so by unplugging things or using a power strip that you turn off will eliminate these vampire loads. So as I mentioned, many electronics chargers use electricity when they're not in use, and it's important to disconnect them. And one of the best things that you can do is just have a simple power strip, one button, plop it off at the end of the day, and you can have meaningful impacts on your energy savings at the office. Other things throughout the building, the ways that we interface with heating and cooling, there's a lot that can be saved to adjust the thermostat at your building to an efficient setting. If you adjust it a few degrees warmer in the summer to where you may not notice in the building that it's a couple degrees warmer than if, say, you kept the thermostat set to 65, you change it to 67, you may not really perceive that change, but your energy bill will absolutely perceive that change. Similar for in the winter for your heating, if you reduce how hot the room is kept to, what that set point is, you may not notice it, but the amount of energy that you use will be impacted. So other things that we can keep in mind are trying to limit the use of personal space heaters and fans. Consider wearing a warmer layer if you're cold in the building, or using natural ventilation like a window whenever possible. And like we said before, if it's not in use, unplug it. And when you're going throughout your building, if you do see something where something's left on and doesn't need to be left on, turn it off. Or if you see something that's not operating the way that it should, let someone in facilities know, so that anything that's not working correctly can be fixed and there's not any loss or use of energy that doesn't need to be consumed. So as we mentioned a few times, I think this is a really impactful statistic to keep in mind, and studies showing that 5 to 30% of energy savings can be achieved through just occupant use patterns. And of course, there's caveats. It depends on the type of building and the way that it's used. But what we do can make a difference in how much energy we're consuming, and it doesn't take technology to do that. It just changes the use pattern, and I think that's what's great. Your return on investment is very quick.
Thanks, Andrew. So our very last slide for today is just a list of resources. And then, Andrew, if you want to stop sharing your screen so I can make everyone's faces big again. We will share this slide deck with Juliana, and she can share it out with you, as well as our contact information. And so if you have any questions or follow-up thoughts after this, feel free to reach out. And thanks so much for joining today and being a lively, fun bunch and playing along with our, using your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 thumbs up, thumbs down. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good to meet you.
Yeah.